in the little coach's office in the school talking. And I said, Mike, I don't remember how many years ago. I bet it was 12 or 15 years ago that first time I was up here to see a game. And he kind of smiled. He said, nope, John, if you remember, there was a 2-year-old kid running around, my grandson, kind of causing trouble. I was kind of trying to keep him in line before the game. He was just kind of being a 2-year-old, and he's 13 now, and that's my grandson. So it was 11 years ago. So Mike knew about that, and it's just one of these great small town sites. It was a rainy night, so you've got people watching from their cars. There's like a little berm above the field on one side. And I tweeted up there, it's small town football when you hear horns honking as the home team scores. And Big Craig Orlando, he scored 5 touchdowns that night, all on short runs. He probably made about 50 tackles. It was great. Just really nice people up there in Verndale. That was really fun. And then the next night, Friday night last week, that's when I saw St. Agnes play at St. Croix Prep. Actually, the home team is not called St. Croix Prep. It's called Academy Force. And I joke, I always want to call it Air Force Academy. But it's basically a whole bunch of little private schools that don't have enough kids individually to have a football team. So it's a co-op called Academy Force. I'm going to run down the schools here. I don't know how many of these a lot of people have even heard of, but St. Croix Prep, that's the home team for the co-op. That's in Stillwater. That's a public school out in Stillwater. New Life Academy, Mounds Park Academy, Math and Science Academy, Twin City Academy, Liberty Classical Academy, and Gentry Academy. So you get a lot of academies. The team is called Academy Force. That was not wet, but boy, that was cold out there. But that's all right. And then this week we're recording here Thursday morning. I was at Maple Lake on Wednesday night for the last game of the regular season, watching Piers. That's the visiting team. They beat Maple Lake 28-7. Piers is the top-ranked team in Class 3A, and Maple Lake's number 9 in 2A. And this is interesting. I haven't looked at the section playoff brackets yet for Piers, but they're the number 1 team in the state. But as of before kickoff last night, they were the number 2 team in their section because Albany is in their section. And if you use the QRF, which a lot of sections do, Albany was looking like the number 1 seed. And so we're done with the regular season in football as of Wednesday night. Playoffs start next Tuesday night for the non-6A classes. The 6A classes, the big schools, they don't jam as many games in because there's only 32 teams in 6A. But this is that time of year. It can be kind of controversial. You'll have teams, if they keep winning, they'll play 3 games in 12 days. Tuesday, Saturday, Friday. And, I've talked to a lot of coaches about this. It's the tradition in Minnesota. Everybody gets to the playoffs in football. But some teams, if you're good enough, you keep winning, you could play 3 games in 12 days to get through the first part of the postseason. And, I know some coaches who did not grow up in Minnesota, as I did not, they would prefer that maybe half the teams in each section play in the playoffs. But there's no serious sign that that's going to change. When I first moved here, and I've talked about this before, having lived in Iowa and Arizona, I thought it was the wackiest thing ever that you can go through a football season, not win a game, but yet you're in the playoffs, and your first playoff game is maybe going to be against a team that didn't lose a game. And that's, so those first round matchups, you get a number 1 seed and an 8 seed. Those are generally blowouts, but everybody knows that's coming. And we're on the cusp of playoff football here.
Let's buzz through a few more topics. Again, check out all of our shows at TalkNorth.com or subscribe at your favorite podcast app. Thank you to our producer, Brandon Morton. And remember, Bitesquad, the promo code is TalkNorth. We'll get you your first delivery fee waived. But after that, just keep using it because it's a great service. Also, go to Bitesquad.com. They might have a better deal for you in your area. And you can check out which restaurants you can have delivered from. And if there are a bunch of restaurants, you can pay $5.99 a month and get free delivery for a month from any place within 4 miles. It's a pretty good deal. And great restaurants, hot food at your door, morning, noon, night, home, or office. Bitesquad.com or use the Bite Squad app. It's probably the best way to go. Hall of Fame time.
Yeah, we got a couple of Hall of Fame events going on, Jim. At the high school league, we have a Hall of Fame. We induct Hall of Famers every other year. This is one of those years. So this Sunday here, October 20th at 1 o'clock at the Intercontinental St. Paul Riverfront Hotel I think that used to be the Radisson. But we're going to have our Hall of Fame luncheon. It's a great thing, and this is a great class here. Natalie Darwitz, the great hockey player, gold medalist, is going to be inducted. Khalid El Amin, the great basketball player from Minneapolis North and UConn. Tony Santa, soccer legend.
Yep.
A coach that you've written about, Faith Johnson Patterson, Jim. She's going to be inducted.
Good.
The 1930s Grand Meadow High School girls basketball team. I think there are only 2 or 3 players from those teams still alive, but they're going to be there. And the thing about that was they did not lose a game for 10 years. And the only reason their winning streak stopped was because schools dropped girls' sports as we got to the 30s. In the early part of the century, girls played sports in Minnesota. And especially in the small towns, basketball was a big deal. And this Grand Meadow team didn't lose a game for 10 years, and then finally got shut down and basically played scrimmages with other schools because, the thinking was girls should not perspire. That's not healthy. I think we've come past, and like I said, I grew up in Iowa where that never stopped. Girls never stopped. They've had a girls' state basketball tournament in Iowa for probably more than 100 years because they never stopped. And that was a great thing when I was a kid. I didn't know, girls sports was just as big to me as boys sports because for some reason Iowa didn't follow that national trend and drop girls sports. But anyway, the Grand Meadow girls basketball team, Dave Harris is going to go in the administrator category. Cliff Janke, fine arts, Bill Kronschnabel as an official, Byron Olson as an administrator and official, Dave Stead as an administrator, former executive director of the high school league, now retired. Bill Webb, a music teacher from Edina who's retired. And one of my favorite guys, Gary Smith. He's the athletic trainer at Eden Prairie High School, also a former Iowa guy like me. Now we've got a theme here, Jim. Mm-hmm. But Gary Smith was the trainer for the Miracle on Ice hockey team.
That's right.
And when we tweeted out, when we put out on social media all the inductees here a few weeks ago, it was neat to see some of these guys from that Miracle on Ice team who do use Twitter to congratulate Smitty on this honor. He'll be the first athletic trainer inducted into the High School League Hall of Fame. So that'll be Sunday in downtown St. Paul. That'll be a great time. And then this past weekend, the Minnesota State High School Coaches Association had their Hall of Fame banquet in Minnetonka. And I'll go down the inductees this year. Brian Luke, a swimming and diving coach from Stillwater. Craig Nelson, track from Laverne. Dave Palmquist, girls hockey, South St. Paul. Jim Musburger, boys basketball from Strandquist and Carlstad. Dave Galovich, still the boys basketball coach at Crosby Ironton. And Bob Bonk, still the track and cross country coach at Fairmont. And it's a great night. They have a good dinner in a big banquet room and then have the Hall of Fame inductees, and then they give awards to state championship coaches, assistant coaches of the year. It's really a neat event. I've been going for years now, and a few years ago, the Coaches Association made me an honorary lifetime member, and I'm really, that is a great honor for me to be counted among that group. There's nothing better than coaches who have such a great impact on kids.
That's great. Well, you do a great job of promoting and telling the stories of all these people, so it makes sense. Let's wrap up with In Remembrance, Food of the Week, Tournament Time, and 50-year coaches in remembrance.
Yep. Here we go. Yeah, we had a couple of guys we lost here in the last week or two. Lee Alto, he was a former member of the High School League Board of Directors. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He died Thursday in Grand Rapids at 73. Was inducted into the Hall of Fame 19 years ago. Another one, John Hanson from Osseo, the only guy I ever knew who was a football coach and a choir director. And I assume he was a great choir director because he was a great football coach. He was 91 when he died last week. And the Osseo Stadium is John Hanson Stadium, named after the coach and choir director. And when they dedicated that stadium to him, I was there. And it was interesting talking to some of his old football players who also were in the choir. Just hearing stories about he wasn't that much different on the football field and in the choir room. He kind of coached and taught the same way. So those folks have departed. Food of the week, we're going to talk about pretzel and cheese twice here. Up in Verndale.
I'm shocked.
I'm stunned by this. I didn't even know they had a concession stand going in Verndale. I think they had a little shelter, a little tent set up in the rain. But before the game, I'm up in the press box, tucked away, warm and dry, and and a guy comes up and introduces himself, and his wife had been the one taking tickets, and I chatted with her earlier, and he said, "We're going to bring some. What do you want here tonight?" And I said, "Oh, you don't have to bring me anything." He said, "How about a pretzel and cheese?" So at halftime, this pretzel and cheese was delivered. It was great. And then Wednesday night in Maple Lake. Here's a pro tip: if you want to get good treatment at the concession stand, I was standing in a line at halftime, kind of a big line. It was a big crowd. Senior night in Maple Lake, and the AD there kind of taps me on the shoulder and pulls me back around to the back door of the concession stand, takes me behind the ropes, and basically says, "What do you want?" So a nice piece of pizza, pretzel, cheese, back up in the press box. That's the way to do it. So pro tip, have that AD tap you on the shoulder and take you behind the velvet ropes here.
It sounds like pretzel and cheese is kind of a gateway food.
It is definitely a gateway food. And, I tweeted the before and after picture of the cheese and the pretzel. And I started getting grief from people that this is not healthy, John. And, your cardiologist will tell you this is not healthy. I don't eat 19 of these a week. I could I would if I could. But yeah, people got down in the weeds on that. That's okay. We had fun with it. But yeah, tournament time is here, Jim, as you said. We talked about the football postseason. This coming week, we'll have girls' state tennis tournaments. Boys and girls' state soccer tournaments will start in girls' tennis, the 2As at the Baseline Tennis Center at the University of Minnesota. Great facility. The 1As are at Intercity Tennis Center in South Minneapolis, another cool place to watch tennis. Indoor tennis, that's all we need right now. The soccer state quarterfinals will be played at 4 different sites around the metro. Outdoor soccer for the first round of state, and then semifinals and state championship games indoors at US Bank Stadium. And the championship games will be on Halloween in the stadium. That's where I will be. I won't be handing out candy at my front door. I'll be at the stadium watching soccer. And I did see a section soccer championship doubleheader Tuesday night. I drove up to Andover. Section 7 AA, and both games were the same school, Centennial at Andover, and the home team did not win either game. Centennial won both of those games, so a lot of excitement at Centennial, both the girls and boys soccer teams playing at state in the week ahead here. And we'll wrap it up with these 50-year coaches. We talked about Mike Malin at Verndale, and there is a story on John's Journal about Mike Malin, Ron Stolsky from Brainerd, and Dwight Lundeen with Becker. So Mike is in his 51st year. Dwight Lundeen at Becker, this is his 50th year. And Ron Stolsky, the legend from Brainerd, this is his 58th year as a high school football coach. And they rank 1, 2, 3. I said earlier, Mike has 400 wins. Ron has 388. Dwight's at 366. And, it's just to hear these guys tell the stories of even how they got hired. Mike Malin was 20 years old. He'd already finished college at 20 years old and got hired, and now he's 71 and has won 400 games. And Dwight was the very first football coach in Becker history. He started the program when he was 21 years old. Now he's 71. He's got an artificial knee and an artificial hip, and he's never missed a game or a practice. And then Ron Stolsky, he had a little more of a circuitous route. He went to Brainerd in 75, but he was at 3 or 4 smaller schools before that, and just great stories. I wish I would have had more room to get into, these are all 3 of these guys. You can sit down for hours and they just tell you great stories about the old days. And Dwight Lundeen from Becker was telling me when he started the program, they had 17 players. He was the only coach. So he coached every position, and it was kind of like hockey, it sounded to me. So on offense, he designated one kid who's not a starter, but you are the number 1 offensive substitute. So this kid had to know every position on offense. And then another kid had to know every position on defense, because if you need to go in, we don't have enough depth to have backups at every position. So it's fun putting that together. I saw all 3 of those coaches' teams play this year, spent time interviewing them all. And what a great job I have, Jim. You're right. This is the greatest job ever. And spending time with people like that and writing about great coaches who've been at it for 50 plus years is pretty special.
And you do a great job bringing their stories to light. Again, you can read John at MSHSL John's journal, and we try to just have a kind of an oral history of his work on this podcast and kick around some other ideas